What's going on, guys? Sorry, I was sharing out the link through various media outlets, social media outlets, so that way we can get a couple of folks on here to watch and see what's going on. I'm going to be live for a little while. This is a little bit of an investigation that started on a hunch. I mean, a lot of people believe in global warming, and a lot of people believe in climate change, and a lot of people believe that humans are the reasons for it. Call me a skeptic. I don't think that necessarily humans are the reason why global warming is happening. I also don't necessarily believe that global warming is. I believe that the Earth is warming, but I'm not 100% certain as to why it is, or if it's sort of a cyclical thing, or if it's something that, um, astronomically speaking, it sort of happens. Every certain amount of years, it just goes through a transition, things like that. I think there's a lot of other things that are at play here than just necessarily the human cause. And so what's sort of prompted me into thinking about some of these things um, was more recently was that little girl that I already talked about on a previous video, Greta Thunberg. And then I saw a Swede. She's from Sweden, and I saw a video of a Swede, pretty much denouncing her, and saying that she was essentially a puppet, and people were taking advantage of her mental illnesses. And she does have Asperger's. She has selective autism. She also has OCD and a couple of other things. And now I really hate to um, pry on her or pick on her because she honestly believes in what it is that she's doing. And innocently enough, she actually on her part, she actually started to believe a lot of this stuff because this is what she was being taught in school. And because she does have OCD, she became obsessed with the idea that the future wouldn't be available to her. She would no longer have a future, that this doomsday event would happen. And because this fear was instilled in her, and because of her mental state, she became overwhelmingly obsessed. Well, disgustingly enough, certain people used her illnesses to their advantage and started parading her around in the UN and the IPCC and all this other stuff. And it's really starting to become grossly disgusting. I mean, it really is. So, a buddy of mine from Clear News, or Clear Sky News, he sent me a YouTube video, and it's an astrophysicist that's talking about really what the effects of, and specifically they're talking about Greta Thunberg and climate alarmists. But the point of the matter is that in the middle of the video, and I just had it playing in the background, I was doing my own little research, and I came across I started hearing him talk about what I thought profiteers, right? I was thinking, this fear mongering, there's investors involved, and all of a sudden Nancy Pelosi's name comes up, and I went, what? Stop, go back, go back, go back, go back. So I replayed what they just said, and apparently Nancy Pelosi's husband invested money in what a solar firm weeks before the title is before lucrative expansion. So I began to do a little bit of research into that because initially I started an Excel spreadsheet and I said, okay, well, what are the top five renewable energy companies, and who are their shareholders? In are any of them espousing climate ideology, and are they going to benefit from this by spreading fear and whatnot? So as I heard that, I stopped what I was doing and I started looking in SunEdison, which is the renewable energies firm that they were referring to. It turns out that her husband had invested, let's see here, up to $250,000 in stock, so $250,000 in stock. But it turns out that I guess he had sold it just before they had gone belly up. So the company or the organization is did file Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and her husband Paul Pelosi uh, evidently. In addition to her stock trades, Pelosi steered more than $1 billion in federal subsidies to a light rail project likely to improve the value of San Francisco cloud computing company. I mean, this is all over the place. This article is crazy. So evidently, Pelosi is involved. SunEdison announced that it would buy residential power company Vivint Solar for $2.2 billion. To its stock improved on the news. So anyway, apparently, oh, whoa. Podesta Group is run by top Hillary Clinton Foundation fundraiser. Okay, so it gets a little bit deeper now. So, um, I'm looking into this. I'm going to keep the live video on for a little while so people can come and go as they please. Because it gets a little difficult for me to as my thoughts start to come in to make a video and then stop and then make a video and stop and make a video. In addition to that, I think sometimes it's a little bit interesting to see what it is, how it is that I go about my thinking process. So as the video continues, I'll start bringing things up on the screen so you guys can see what it is that I'm looking at. So it turns out that there might be some fear mongering going on in some profiteers by our politicians. Go figure. So I shared the article with my buddy from Clear Sky News, and this is the kicker right here. Okay, let me get to the point. I actually scrolled away from it, so I apologize. Just stick with me here. I don't want to tell you a lie. Let me just do this. I know it's in here, and I tried to control F it, but it wouldn't show. That's funny. Okay, so I found it. So April 20th, 2016, SunEdison filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, right? And their stock was delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, and they started trading on pink sheets. Pink sheets, and but here's the deal: SunEdison became under investigation from the Securities and Exchange Commission over what it had disclosed to its investors. So, is it possible that Mr. Paul Pelosi became aware of their Chapter 11 bankruptcy before they were going to file it, and they sold their shares, and they got out while it was still cooking, so they didn't lose their investments? I don't know. So, this is what's driving me absolutely nutty. If you haven't already been to AmericanOverwatch.org and gone to the information tab and looked down at our global warming section, please do, because it covers where the sensors are located at, the timeline. It does. I have videos on there. It shows. It's really cool. It shows when the CO2 readings were taken. It shows where they were taken globally. And it makes no sense what it is that they're saying. And you can see over time that there are periods in in the 1990s where the CO2 peaks over 400, 417, and 420, and then it goes back down in different areas, okay? And the Earth is consistently emitting CO2 through a variety of sources, through volcanic eruptions, through earthquakes, even, sub-oceanic earthquakes, if that's even a word, So, I mean, wherever they're taking the readings, whenever they're taking the readings, it's all subject to a source emitting the CO2s. It's not necessarily a consistent thing. So you can't just put a sensor up in the air and say, okay, well, over time, this sensor is going to tell me exactly the ground truth, because it's, again, subject to the source that's being emitted at the time of the reading, and we don't necessarily know unless I went around and I looked at every earthquake that happened over the time, overlaid that on top of all the sensors, looked at all the volcanic eruptions, overlaid that, look at the climatology and seen where all of this stuff is happening. I'm not a climatologist. I'm not a weatherman. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not an astrophysicist. Okay, but I am smart enough to understand that there are a variety of different variables that are at play here, and not just human contribution to global warming. So if you just stop and think about this for a second, you'll be able to understand what it is that I'm trying to say. And it's not just because I'm a conservative; it's because I'm thinking. I'm thinking, why are they pushing the issue so hard? Why is there a doomsday event on the horizon within 12 years? Who stands to profit from this? And if it's Republicans, I'll be the first one to say it. Because first of all, morally and ethically, I would be devastated. I would be absolutely devastated by this fact. And I would definitely put them out there on the limelight. And then maybe I'd go independent or some, like, maybe we'd start a new political party. I think we need to, maybe. But anyways, this is going to be, I'm going to keep this video live for a little while. And just go through some of the things that I just talked about. Again, the top 5 companies that I was actually looking at, their names are, let me pull this up here. Simmons, Gamoza, if it's going to come up. No. Microsoft, are you frozen? God love you, Google. God love you. My video resolution is off, apparently. Okay. Well, finally, Microsoft decided to do something. So, Siemens Gamesa is out of Spain. These are the top 5 renewable energy companies that I was looking at before I heard Nancy Pelosi. So, I might have to stop and then rethink about what it is I was going to do, because I didn't really know where to start. And then there's GE Renewable Energies, Berkshire Hathaway Energies, which is a little bit something I probably should look into. They might be profiteering, and Cypress Creek Renewables and Nextra Energy Resources. So those are the top 5 based on a source that I found. And then we'll see again. I'm going to back up and start looking at SunEdison. I mean, they're no longer in business as of 2016, so that was 3 years ago. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to find like live information on them, like current information. So nonetheless, I mean, think about this, people. I mean, this video needs to be shared. If it hasn't already been said, it needs to be shared, because I mean, an Armageddon doomsday event because of human activities, excreting CO2, carbon dioxide emissions, or greenhouse emissions, and deforestation is just absolutely absurd. And if you believe it, if you absolutely believe it, you have to stop. Please, I'm pleading with you, just stop for a second and think. Why? Who? Why are they saying this? Is it real? Okay, don't take their word for it. Don't just say yes because they have my best interest at heart and they believe what they're saying is true and I know that they're saying is true. Stop. Say, why are they saying this? Who is saying this? And who stands to profit from it? And then do your own independent research and try and figure out if you can answer any of those questions. If at the end of the day you can't answer any of those questions, no one stands to profit from it, Nancy Pelosi's up there screaming at the top of her lungs, we need to do something, but she's got no investment in any of this, then maybe what she's saying is true. And if any of the scientists who are getting federal grants are saying, I don't really think so. I think there's probably something else at play. Then maybe it's not true. Okay, but here's the thing. If they're getting federal grants or international grants and they're just screaming at the top of their lungs that this is happening, that this is real, they're going to continue to say that because they're going to want the money. If they go against it, then there's no need for the grant. There's no need for the program. So there's no need for it to continue. Therefore, they won't get the money. In the same token, it applies to all the universities. If you think I'm just saying this because I don't believe in it, you're sadly mistaken. You have to go and do your own independent research. And I've done that on AmericanOverwatch.org. Go to the information tab, go down to global warming. You'll see it there. It's all laid out, transparent for you. You'll be able to see exactly what it is that I'm talking about and the reason why I'm so skeptical. If global warming really was truly happening and it was the human cause for it, then there would be a lot more consensus across the board in the science, in the astrophysicist community. But there's not. There's not. Okay? I'm telling you there's not. And you really need to stop and think about this. Okay? And if what's even more alarming is a tax levied against fossil fuels because of the effect, the change of global warming or greenhouse effect. Think about this for a second. If there is a tax levied against fossil fuels, against companies who burn oil or whatever the case is, or whatever your carbon footprint is, if there's a tax levied against your carbon footprint, and it has no effect on greenhouse gas, think about the level of scandal that would be. And then think about, is it possible that politicians are enriching themselves based on that fear, based on that tax, and are they embezzling the money from taxpayers? Because when we, the people, were founded in 1775 after the war, and in 1776 when our Constitution was signed and our independence was declared, okay, it was generally about how people were being taxed without representation. And you think to yourself, well, we're being represented by Congress today. But if Congress is taxing us for their own profits, we are no longer being represented. And it's the same principles that can be applied in 1775 that should be applied today. I believe that we're being overtaxed by the politicians. The deficit in the ceiling in the spending is out of control because all of these politicians want to enrich themselves, and they're reaching into this big U.S. pot of money that we, the people, are paying into, and they're just sticking it in their own pockets. So it's my belief that I'm going to go very, very soon, probably within the next month or so, maybe within a month, and I'm going to go and I'm looking top down at the Appropriations Committee. I'm going to look at the budget, and I'm going to look at where the money's being funded. I'm going to look at taxes. I'm going to be looking at how much money our U.S. persons are paying, federal income taxes, not to mention sales taxes, okay, and a whole bunch of other taxes that are levied across the United States versus how much the Appropriations Committee has budgeted for each of the programs that the federal government has. And then I'm going to see where it lines up, where the money lines up, because something's not making a lot of sense to me in that case, in that regard. So if there's taxes going to be levied against people with a carbon footprint, that should really scare you. It should not scare you, because fear mongering, right? It should really set off bells and whistles in your head and say, okay, wait a minute. Let's take a step back here. Let's think about what's really going on. Guys, listen. I don't have any sponsorship, okay? None. It's 100% free. I'm doing all this stuff on my own time. I make no money. Listen, if you guys support anything that I'm doing right now and you have a little bit of extra cash, please, where is it? Right here. Go to this website here and help me out. All right? Also, keep buying these because they keep me going. And if Monster stops making these, I don't know what I would do. Anyway, Seriously, help me out, guys. Um, so don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and also create a membership account at AmericanOverwatch.org, so that way you guys can get emails when I create blog posts and things like that. You can stay up to date. And also, if there's any, I send out newsletters. I don't spam. I don't sit there and just constantly send stuff out. You only get stuff when it happens. Any major updates or changes to the website, I'll just send that out in a newsletter, so you'll know, and you can go there and check it out when it happens. So, like I said, I'm gonna keep this video live for a while. Pardon me while I sit up in my chair here. And then I'm gonna go through and look at Nancy Pelosi and what her involvement or what her husband's involvement is in SunEdison. So let me bring up this thing here. It only tells me I got a couple of concurrent viewers, maybe me myself. I'm just going through and looking to see if there's anybody watching. So, all right, guys, I'm going to continue on with my little investigation into this. So, Pelosi has previously been accused of stock trading based on information gleaned through her official duties. She participated in Visa's initial public offering at the company fought a House bill to subject credit card companies to increased regulations. The measure failed to pass. A law passed in the wake of that controversy prohibits members of Congress from using non-public information for personal gain. Language in that measure was initially dubbed the Pelosi provision. In addition to her stock trades, Pelosi steered more than $1 billion in federal subsidies to a light rail project that likely improved the value of San Francisco's headquarters of cloud computing company Salesforce, in which her husband had invested up to $1 million. You see what I'm saying, guys? Now we get to this. Paul Pelosi's stake in SunEdison will likely force the wealthy investor to take a haircut if the company declares bankruptcy. SunEdison's first wind acquisition turned out to be a significant part of a larger expansion over the last 2 years that left the company with unsustainable levels of debt. On the heels of its first win, announced it would buy residential power company 2.2. The value stock improved. The Vivint deal fell apart in March. The company accused SunEdison of breach of contract, as SunEdison announced that it had been subpoenaed by the Department of Justice over failed acquisition. SunEdison had maintained a strong presence in Washington throughout its financial woes. The company had spent more than $1 million on its lobbying operation since 2011. It had this employee lobbyist with powerhouse Podesta Group. Guys, it just gets so deep here, and if you're wondering why if you haven't been to AmericanOverwatch.org, please go there and go to AmericanOverwatch.org, and in this case, click on detailed analysis, and you'll see at the very top a link analysis chart, and you're probably thinking this guy's a nut job, but the reason why I have that link analysis chart up there is because if you gather all of this information, you're never going to retain half of what you've read. So you can't, like Podesta Group, this is the first I'm hearing about it. And, maybe other people have heard about Podesta Group and they're all laughing at me right now for having said that. But that's fine. The point of the matter is that that link analysis chart up there, okay, is what that deep state is. It's what there's no conspiracy behind it. It just shows you on paper that there's no conspiracy behind what it is that we talk about. And when people use hyperbolic terms like deep state, it makes it discredits really what it is that we're talking about here. We're talking about a network of people who have personal interests in making money. It's all it really is. And the term deep state kind of it's a hyperbolic term, and it puts some people off, like moderates, people who just kind of like I just want to mind my own business and live my day to day life. That link chart is what it is that we talk about when we say deep state. And then it's funny because the left comes up with a term and they call the right, what do they call the right? I just had on the tip of my tongue. Do they call it the establishment? The establishment. So that you got the deep state and the establishment, right? These hyperbolic terms that describe people who profiteer from fear mongering and the back and forth between each other. It's just absolutely insane what's going on in our government now. And it's happening worldwide, guys. Okay, so they say the cabal and they say the globalists and all this stuff. There's Joe Biden's son was sitting on the board of a Ukrainian oil company, Burisma Holdings, and Mitt Romney's advisor was sitting there. So like, there's something to be said here. I mean, it's funny how like 10 years ago, my brother was like, Jack, this is going on. And I was like, you're crazy. You're stupid. You know what you're talking about. And now here I am talking like my brother, right? I mean, it's just absolutely insane to see where I'm at and to see, like, I was one of those guys that was just willfully ignorant and believed that, I wanted to believe that our politicians spent a lifetime of servitude in the best interest of our nation and to try and make, they're patriots, they're proud patriots, they're going to do what's best for us as a country. And no, it's just simply not true. It's just simply not true. They just want to make money doing it, and they're making a lot of money at our expense. Listen, the government is the biggest GoFundMe account ever. Right? You laugh at some of those GoFundMe accounts and you're like, why would anybody donate to that? It's the government, guys. It's the government, except you don't got a choice. They just take it in taxes and then they stick it in their own pockets. Or they appropriate funds, right, underneath the guise of some sort of fear, some sort of betterment of the community, or whatever it is that they're donating or appropriating funds to, whatever community they're appropriating funds to. But behind the scenes, they have their husbands or their spouses or they themselves have investments in, and they have a personal stake in what it is that they're appropriating the federal funds to. So, I mean, there's something to be said here, guys. I'm telling you, there's green energy focused lobbying firm. Okay, so 38 North Solutions. That's what Podesta Group brought in to lobby against them. And Pelosi fought for the extension of those tax subsidies in a major congressional deal last year. And by last year, this article, I guess, was dated. So that would have been in 2015. I mean, it's 4 years ago, guys, when President Trump starts looking into allegations of corruption by the vice president and his son, Hunter Biden, by participating in Burisma Holdings and withholding federal funds and aid, pressuring the Ukrainian government to fire a prosecutor who was looking into Burisma Holdings for said corruption. And then the left goes absolutely bonkers and they want to impeach the president because of some sort of political gain, I guess is what it is that they're looking at. Um, Let me be the first to tell you, Joe Biden had absolutely no chance of winning the candidacy at all. So President Trump really could have waited until after the elections to do this. I wish he would have done that. I know that he was excited that President Zelensky got into office and that they won the parliament and that he wanted to get the ball rolling. And he probably had no idea that there was going to be some sort of insider leak and then this whistleblower. But the reality is, or maybe he did, and he wanted this to blow out. President Trump is so smart. Maybe he did want to know, he did want this to happen. He knew it was going to happen. He had Democrats in the office on the call, listening to his congratulatory, phone conversation with President Zelensky, and he wanted this to happen and to bring this to light, right? To re-energize this conversation, and this is exactly what we're doing. That happened. That started all of this. Really, is what it did, and it definitely started it for me, because there's something to be said about a sitting president in the United States wanting to investigate corruption of a politician, and then the entire left just go absolutely apeshit over it, and instead of focusing on the potential corruption. So they're trying to change the light, and they're saying, no, Mr. President, you're the corrupt one. You're the one that's using your powers, your special powers, in order to defeat a potential political opponent, when in reality, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were the ones he was initially investigating for corruption. He's investigating for corruption, and they're saying, well, you're doing that because you want to politically benefit for it. And it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. Is it a self-flicking ice cream cone? I mean, it gets stupid. It does. It's really getting stupid. So, now I got to figure out what's going on with SunEdison, because SunEdison, I need to figure out where they're headquartered out of and who their key members were. And I also need to figure out if there's a way. Listen, if there's any viewers who have made it this far into the video, I know it's already gone like 30 something minutes. But if you guys are watching this part of the video and you hear me, if you know of a way to look up shareholders, like individual shareholders and like names or something like that, let me know. Drop a comment below and let me know. Because I'm not sure of a way to do that yet. Do they really still have a website up? I'll be damned. December 29 of 2017. SunEdison Incorporated and its debtors, affiliates, announced that its plans of reorganization, the plan, became effective in that the company has emerged from Chapter 11 as a newly reorganized and privately held company. The Bankruptcy Court of the Southern District of New York confirmed the plans of July 28, 2017. Pursuant to the plan, SunEdison existing common stock has been canceled on 29, 2017. Common stock shareholders will receive no distribution and will not retain any property underneath SunEdison's plan. Following over the $2.3 billion of gross asset sales throughout its Chapter 11 cases, SunEdison emerges with a significant smaller footprint and will continue to focus on monetizing its remaining assets. Richard Katz will serve as chairman and CEO of the reorganized SunEdison. Pursuant to the plan, SunEdison GUC Litigation Trust was formed For the benefit of allowed general and unsecured claimants and second lien claimants, the purpose of the trust is to marshal the trust assets, administer to reconcile claims, prosecute and settle litigation claims, and make distributions to allowed claimants. Okay, guys, this is getting interesting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring up one of my fun websites that I have to verify businesses. Um, it's called Corporation Wiki. When I don't really know where a company is headquartered out of, um, I'll just go here and search and see what comes up. Who did I say was going to be the sitting CEO? Richard Katz. Katz. Hmm. When in doubt, go to the website, the company's website. Go to the contact us, and in some cases, it'll have their address, and then it'll give you a state to look at. Oh, let's look at this. So it doesn't have that, but it does have docket information for claims information in courts due to their Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So right now, it's one of them tipped me off to New York, but so now what I'm going to do, excuse me, I'm going to go to the Division of Corporations in the state of New York. Um, and see if I can look up key members of the company. Some states provide good information, some states provide very little information. It just depends. I hate when it does it. Sorry, got to do the CAPTCHA, which wasn't there before. No business entity. Let's take that out. Oh, CAPTCHA. Yeah, there it is. All right. So there's 4 in New York. Let's take a look. Missouri. Principal Executive Office, Maryland Heights, Missouri. Chief Executive Officer. So this is where it starts to become very because you have subsidiaries and then you have parent companies and subsidiaries and it's all apart, and so the parent company of another company might file Chapter 11, so they lose that asset. So it gets complicated, right? It's like this little pyramid of crap you got to follow. So that's why it's important to have that link chart that I have. So they're saying the SunEdison Incorporated chief executive officer. The last time anything was filed, so again, the Division of Corporations for New York isn't. Oh, here we go. Name change, name history, SunEdison. It was Mimic Materials. The last filing date was of 2014 to SunEdison Inc. Could have been purchased there, but they were headquartered out of Maryland Heights, Missouri. So now I'm gonna run over to Missouri State, Secretary of State rather, and look at filing data. Maybe. Nope. Every website's a little different, so business search. There we go. Business name. Sun Edison. Typed that right? No, I didn't. Sorry. Head. SunEdison Inc. 1989. Filing. All right, so date filed 9/13/17, right? Here we go. Administrative judicial action, administrative dissolution, notification for failure to file a registered report. I also know the name of the CEO from their website. So apparently, SunEdison Incorporation has been involuntarily dissolved for failure to file a registration report in September of 2017. So it's possible that they are not in Missouri anymore. This is why it's so time consuming and so hard to figure out where the corruption's at, and this is where all my time and effort is being invested, and I'm trying to do this for you guys, to bring forth the truth and the light into. Listen, an informed American populace, an informed world populace, is a very scary threat, especially to politicians. Okay, back in the day when people used to read the newspaper, people relied on the newspaper, they relied on information, and they had a sense of trust in journalism, where journalists were supposed to be reporting factual information. In a case where you were reading the information for yourself verbatim instead of hearing it and listening to it, you could sort of, in effect, ignore the adjectives that were being used to describe things, and you could extrapolate just the facts as you read them. It was in black and white. It was in your hand. You could see it, and you could, in essence, detract from the hyperbolic language, and you could just extrapolate the facts. But in today's day and age, where there's media, right? I mean, when I say media, I mean like videos and voice recordings and podcasts and TV and things like that. And we're hearing these things. It's hard for you to drown out the hyperbolic language because it invokes a sense of feeling, and that's what it's meant to do. It's subliminal. It invokes a feeling of whether and depending on your track of thought and where your life experiences take you, it invokes certain feelings. So that's why people feel a certain way so strongly or so compassionately or passionately about certain things, because their life experiences brought them to that point. And when people say hyperbolic language, it invokes feeling, and you can't ignore it. You can't not hear that. It's in your head. When you read something, it's a little bit different, and I think that's a big difference, especially in today's day and age. Um, so I don't know where I was going with that, but so now I'm back to square one. So they were dissolved 2017 in Missouri. So now I got to go back to their website and see this guy. No, corporate restructuring. Let me go to restructuring. It doesn't talk about anything about where it is that they're at. So let me see if I can use the new CEO's name. Where's he at? Richard Katz. There you are. You know, I used to have a chief warrant officer with the same last name, but it was pronounced Cates. So I wonder if it's Richard Cates. Um, where did you go? Do you want to? This is me being bored, folks. This is how I do it. You know what I'm saying? Takes a lot of patience to do this. Takes a lot of patience. Companies. Are you gonna make me sign in? Do I even have a password? Register for a free account. I thought I already did. Sorry, I had to sign in because, after the first page, it won't let you go any further until you have an account. And apparently Richard Cates is a very popular guy. So, nothing really. All right, well, I'm going to have to go on a deep dive here, guys. I'm going to have to look into this a little bit more surreptitiously. Is that the right word? I just use fancy words to say things. Um, anyways, I'm gonna look into this a lot more in detail. So I'm gonna stop the video now at this point. But I appreciate any views on this video. Please, if you made it to the very end, which I'd be very shocked if you did, or if you're watching right now, please don't forget to like and share the video. Subscribe to my channel for any future videos. I promise it's not going to be anything like this. There's just something kind of off the cuff that I wanted to do. Talk about some of the feelings that I had at the time that I had them, and bring some information to light. So again, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to be notified for future videos. Thank you so much for joining me here at American Overwatch. Please have a blessed one, and we'll see you on the next one.